What if the world's oldest flood tale hides a real cataclysm that science is only now confirming? Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into the Eridu Genesis, decoding the oldest flood myth before Noah. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what the Eridu Genesis, decoding the oldest flood myth before Noah is and why it matters.